that was founded in 2009, so it's 16 years that in Italy we have an association dedicated only to the biochar and in particular to all the biochar application. Thanks to HR, we have put the biochar inside the regulator of the use of the biochar in agronomy in 2011. And so in Italy, the biochar is recognized as a material to use, of course, in agronomy application. So, so the biochar, of course, is officially recognized in Italy for the use in agronomy, and we are also to promote the use in the other types of application. What about the production of biochar in Italy? In Italy, there is very few companies that produce biochar. There are registered around 20 companies to produce biochar, but on these 20 companies, they produce very few quantity of biochar, of course, because in Italy there is not yet a market for the biochar, essentially, except to the use in agronomy application. But in agronomy application, we have some very good example. For example, in agronomy, biochar in Italy was used for around 15 years in vineyard, in Tuscany in particular, and there are some projects they are promoted and they use the biochar in agronomy. So we have a quite long traditional to the use of the biochar. From, just to give another idea, from about the research is very active in Italy of the use of the biochar, especially also for the innovative application and not only in the agronomy. Of course, there is the CNR. CNR is National Council of Research that is working on the use of the biochar in the field or in agronomy application. We have also, and I'm proud of it, in Polytechnic of Turin, that is my university, we have created a group that is called Biochar at Polito, where we focus on the use of biochar for new applications, so in composite materials, water filtration, batteries, and so on. So innovative application of the biochar. So several projects, of course, in Italy, and also other ways to promote the biochar, not only in real application, but also in other ways. For example, thanks to HR, we published the first translation of biochar books in Italian language. Till 6 months ago, there was any books in Italian language that talk about the biochar. And now, thanks to HR, of course, we translate the Kathleen and Albert books. We translate in Italy, and so we have also a book in Italy to promote the use of biochar. Always thanks to HR, every year we do the Biochar School. The Biochar School is 2 days meetings of people that are working on biochar in national, so in Italy, but also outside from Italy, from recent years. And every year we have a specific topic. For example, a couple of years ago, there was the topic called biochar and the city. So all the application of the biochar in the city. So every year we have a new topic. So follow us on social media to see the next topic of the next biochar school. Then, of course, we have also other types of ways to promote the biochar. One of them is the biochart. So the art exposition where the artists are working with the biochar. Here, for example, we have an example. You can see here close to the HR pavilion, the Italian pavilion, there is an art exposition. If you have not yet have a look, please go have a look. And there are art masterpieces based on biochar, okay, with the topic of the biochar. This is, we are quite proud about that because no one in the world did not yet the art exposition using the biochar. And this is also another way to promote the biochar to all the people. Because what we have to do, we are people of biochar, we have to promote the use of the biochar in different ways, not only in conference or in specific meetings, but also to all the other people, okay? And so, this is more or less what we are doing in Italy. But also, I wanted to introduce my guests that we have here, that are people from Italy that are working active in biochar. In particular, we have Giuseppe Gagliano, we have Fabio Pellegrini from Tira Technology, Filippo from BioKV, and Andrea Salimbeni from Record. And now I give to them some questions, and then we can enjoy the discussion. And of course, if you have questions, don't hesitate to ask to the expert. So, starting from Giuseppe Gagliano, is this man, that he is CEO of 70 Tons. 70 Tons is a startup that working on carbon in general, but also is working on the biochar. And in particular, he is an expert on bioeconomist. And so a possible question could be about the project around the bioeconomy, and so the role of the biochar in this field. So, Giuseppe, could tell us a few words about it?
Yes, je m'appelle Giuseppe, and this is the only French that I know, so I'm sorry, I try to speak in English. I'm not master in English, however, I can communicate. So, thanks to be here. There's a slide to introduce this topic. Okay, that's Italy. You know, Italy is very segregated, okay? It means that we have regions, province, and councils. We have 7,940 councils, okay? It means that we are not so homogeneous between ourselves. And so the mission that we have, and particularly what we do as 17 Tons, is pushing to create circular bioeconomy processes to support local communities to create and push forward a sustainable economy, okay? And we recognize that we cannot still centralized business and actions, but we have to push this in a distributed manner. And this will be useful to support all the capabilities that we have around Italy, starting from the soil, for instance, and the people who is the custody of the soil in the agriculture to regenerate the natural capital. Because the soil is life. And so then if we regenerate the soil, we can produce new biomasses, helpful to feed ourselves, and we can recover the waste. And recovering the waste, we can produce biochar. And we can use the biochar as amendment for the soils, and then we have the first big economy circle that works properly. But then if we use in an accurate manner the biochar, then we can use the biochar in other industrial fields, for instance, into the constructions. And consider that in Italy, we lose every day 19 hectares of soil due to urbanization and cost erosion. 19 hectares mean roughly 40 soccer fields. So if we will be able to regenerate the soil and to take the waste from the soil, transform the waste into biochar, then of course the biochar will be useful for the soil, but will be useful in the construction industries, for the concrete, for instance, reducing the carbon impact of the cement, and in other industries, and we have Andrea that is an expert in the steel production side, okay? So the mission that we have is to prove the value that we can create supply chains in a circular manner, offering the chance to insetting the carbon impact of the companies in this circularity. So we do track based on technology. I'm a nerd of code, so we developed models based on AI to monitor lands through satellite data. We monitor completely the full chain to produce from the biomass up to the application side the usage of biochar, due to prove that we can create a new kind of sustainable economy that is more profitable in terms of money and in terms of life. That's...
Okay, thank you, Giuseppe. So the second question that I want to do is to Fabio Pellegrini. Giuseppe told us about this division, the fragmentation that we have in Italy. So what do you think that could be a possible solution related to the biochar in our particular situation, or in the situation where there is a lot of fragmentation of reality?
Yeah. Good morning to everyone. Yeah, the fragmentation in Italy is also a characteristic, a feature of our companies and of the fact that make a small size of our farms and of our agriculture company. There is no big player in biochar production. So our idea, the idea of Kira Technology is to make not just a possible energy production, a distributed energy production, but also a biochar distributed production. So maybe a solution, a possible improvement in biochar market is to let also very small user, domestic maybe, but also very small farm, to produce biochar with a small unit that make at the same time energy with the syngas production, and so make a system with a 3 good output, useful for environment, of course, because you have a bigger capability of biochar production if you make it almost everywhere, potentially. But at the same time, make the user energetically autonomous, because every time we produce biochar, we produce also energy. It's something inside the process. And the best thing that we can do for sustainability is use this energy. And obviously, use it everywhere, locally, in a distributed way, is a big value added for us.
Thank you, Fabio, for your contribution. Another point that Giuseppe talked is the use of the biochar for the application in the production of in industrial production in general. What is your point of view, Andrea, about that, the use of the biochar in this field?
Yeah, thanks, Mauro. As you know, I'm working with steel companies since 2015. But before going into the specific sector, I would like to highlight one aspect. We always talk about the carbon content, the total carbon content, but the form in which that carbon is makes the difference and the value of a product. A fossil coal like an anthracite contains less than double the carbon I have in my clothes, but it's not the same carbon. And that is why fossil coal in history has been used, and it is still used a lot in steel sector and in many other sectors that we usually do not know or take in consideration, such as the chemical sector for conventional chemicals production, because that material, the fossil coal, is a source of stable carbon, and it can be used both to put that carbon in the steel, which is an alloy of iron and carbon, but also to provide high temperature in clean conditions, because carbon in the biomass, in the raw biomass, it's together with nitrogen, hydrogen, and a lot of oxygen in an amorphous form. But the carbon in a fossil coal is a stable one, it's graphitized a lot. So you can use to provide energy, which is not producing usually a lot of flue gases, a lot of volatile, so it doesn't contaminate the product. And that is why the fossil coal is used by chemical companies, by steel companies, for the production of many materials that we currently use. The biochar, that it can be named charcoal if it's done by wood, or biocoal, it's the same material, is the alternative to fossil coal, which cannot be biomass. So we have an alternative to fossil coal, which is the biochar. And anyone can tell us, yeah, but it was already used in the past. The first steel blast furnaces, they were fed with charcoal. But now they stopped because it was too expensive. So the first question could be, why we should use now if it was not competitive 100 years ago? The answer is because we have a carbon economy. And if you use a fossil coal now, you pay. And if you use carbon, you don't. Biochar, you don't. So that's the first reason. And the first reason is connected with the second one, linked with the second one, which is the environmental point. When you use anthracite, you use sulfur, you use uranium that is in there in traces, which can be dangerous. So we have two good reasons to go back to the use of biogenic carbon sources for the production of industrial products and for decarbonizing the green, the chemical and metallurgy industry in Italy and everywhere.
Thank you, Andrea, for this point of view. It's very, very interesting, of course, for us. Okay, Filippo. Filippo, talk us something about the biochar in the economy, in circular economy. What is your point of view, and how BioKV can help us in this?
Hello, good morning everybody. My name is Filippo, I'm from BioKilowatt. Thank you for inviting us to this panel. The circular economy for us in this moment is that we approach our target clients with an idea that they have to decarbonize their current processes. Our main focus is the agri-food sector and the food production, for example, where we look at it from 3 points of view. The first is the biomass you have available on site, the one you have in your neighborhood. The second is what you do with the biochar. And the third, what you do with the other outcome of your gasification or pyrogasification process, which is syngas on one end and wood vinegar or smoke water on the other. because that's the circularity of it. So you understand which biomass can become your feedstock, and it must be in your neighborhood. It must be sustainable from both economical, transportation, and operational standpoint of view, that you can use it and activate it. And you can transform it into an active source of energy for your process, biochar for your farming operations. Then the biochar is used in the same area from which you have collected the biomass. So we focus mainly on secondary biomass. And it's very simple. I mean, in Italy, at least I would say in most of Italy, the availability of good wood chip, of good biomass, is extremely scarce, with the exception of Trentino Alto Adige, where we also come from, and a few other areas along the Pennines area in Italy. There are very few areas where you have a sufficiently and economically available source of feedstock of high quality. Most of it is poor quality. So our decision from the onset was to work with what we have, which is very poor quality biomass, which is in the capacity and in the reach of the organization with which we work with. And the organization are organization of farmers, which represent hundreds or thousands sometimes of farmers. So it's a work of making them aware of the fact that they have this biomass, which is most of the time waste for them or not a resource as of now. So the first step is to understand how much of it you have, where it is, how you can reach it, how you can make it operational. Meaning you have the means to collect, you have the means to treat it, you have the means to dry it, and you have the means to bring it to a plant where you can transform it into biochar. The other element, as I said, you have an end goal for your energy, meaning you use it for cooling capacity, which is the case we have right now, or heating capacity, or other means like electricity. But electricity is a step further and is extremely complicated when you start from very poor biomass and poor syngas. So the circularity, in my opinion, comes from the analysis of the overall system and the capacity of said system to operate within the parameters of the law, because you have to do it legally. Last but not least, you have to do it with a decarbonization objective in mind, which is integrated then into your industrial processes, which is producing food and selling to the retail distributors. So making a sustainable product. And this takes a lot of effort. On our side, we work on both the consulting side and supplying the technology, down to taking these results you have in terms of CO2 emission that you have captured and put it into your soil, to the analysis that we run through university and collaboration with research departments of many universities. So we sustain this research because we need to have a third-party authority which is able to sustain the argument we bring forward, which is biochar improves your organic substance in your soil, your CO2 overall emission, but also your fertility or your resistance of your soil to events such as drought, for example. So that's, for us, in brief, what we mean by circularity, an analysis of the entire system.
Thank you,
You're welcome.
Filippo. As you can understand, there is a lot of data to take in account when you talk about the biochar. So not only the product that you have. And to organize all this data, now also artificial intelligence could help us. And I would like to have your opinion, Giuseppe, about the use of artificial intelligence in this process. How can artificial intelligence help us?
Yeah, okay. It's artificial intelligence is part of the journey. It's not only the journey. I mean, the technology are useful to prove a value, okay? And Filippo stated already, we need to prove that biochar is good for the soil. It is good to capture, to stock the carbon in the soil or in the concrete or somehow in the steel. And so we have data coming from the plant, in the land, in agriculture, and it becomes a molecule into a concrete part of a building. So then you can imagine all the steps to achieve these goals, the numbers of actors. Then we have, today is not fully regulated, this process. Neither, you know, we have a voluntary carbon market on the final stage. It's not a regulated market yet, and so we need to be very thorough for this governance. We have methodologies. CSI is there. I don't know if you know CSI. Hi guys. Yeah, they are one of the pioneers into the certification stage and the methodology. They are very thorough to prove that what we do in this supply chain is properly done, so we can raise carbon C-sink, what they call C-sink, carbon sink potential. Then we have poor earth and numbers of other. But the actors in these supply chains are it's huge, the numbers of actors. And so we need to keep all of the actors in this supply chain to fill in the proper data that we need. So if we use technology to support people to collect and to feed the data, so then at the end of the day, we have a consistency data in the systems to raise at the end the carbon credit. When we talk about carbon credit, it's so important because it's about financial additionality. So it's good. In Europe now we have the green bond standard, okay? EU GBS. It's very, very accurate, let me say it, certification or regulatory to raise a new kind of green bond, okay? So it is important that we use all the tools that we can produce to generate this new sustainable economy, okay? So even the carbon credit that unfortunately, okay, we had the scandals, we had greenwashing, blah, blah, blah. So, but actually, it is a good way to raise capital in the market to regenerate the natural capital, okay? So the technology is useful to prove all the steps, okay? So when I have a satellite, when I have numbers of a satellite or data coming from the field, coming from the forest, I can account, this is what do we do? How much carbon we have there? If we use the waste of the forest, or if I properly manage a forest, then I take part of the biomass. I have to prove that I didn't collect too much biomass. Only the proper percentage need to be used to produce the biochar in the production facility, okay? So we need to use the technology to be strong, to create a new strong sustainable economy. Then I conclude saying that I have a dream. It's not only a dream, but let me say that in Italy, okay, in this, you know, fragmented area, in the north of Italy, we are the first producer of rice. We are the third in the world, okay, after India and China. There's an interest project to create a biochar valley over there, okay? Because we can use waste biomass from rice husk to produce a very good kind of biochar, useful in different kind of sectors. First of all, for the soil, but then for the other industrial speed. And then this is something that we have been pushing forward in Italy. So there are numbers of initiatives that we have been involved already in the south of Italy, in different kind of regions, in this movie. So the message that I have is that we have been doing something useful for Europe and for the world.
Thank you, Giuseppe. And I want to underline this idea of the biochar valley instead the silicon valley. So I think it's a new era for us. And so I think I want to help you, of course, Giuseppe and all the biochar community to create this biochar valley. Why not in Italy? Why not? So A second question for Fabio. I think that your idea the idea of your company, the Kira Technologies, to produce a small pyrolysis unit. It's of course it's a good idea, especially in Italy for the situation of the Italy with a very small reality, a very small groups of people. Do you think that it could be also to apply to small small community? For example, I am thinking to a simple house, a village, a condo. Why not? What is your point of view? And in Italy, we are ready for these things.
Yeah, honestly, I don't know if Italy is ready. I hope to. But is I think 2 years that we are trying to promote something like a biomass community. Many years we are speaking of energy community to exchange energy on the grid and to produce with renewable and let other houses use your energy that you make from your roof. But the idea that we would like to bring to reality is to build up small communities around a farm. Why not? Maybe a farm, a farm have many residual biomass. For the farm, it's a cost to dispose of this biomass. And the idea is to collect biomass, maybe not just one farm, maybe 2 farms near each other, and use this biomass to produce energy locally in a user near this farm. So maybe the farm itself can produce energy, but the amount of biomass will be enough also for houses nearby. So it means that houses nearby can produce biochar for the farm itself, and so collect back the biochar to the farm and grow in again the biomass of the beginning to produce again energy. So the idea is to make something like a biochar network also, small biochar networks to make the transport as few as possible. Transport is matter also of environmental impact, also matter of cost. And so, yeah, the idea, this idea is good, is nice for Italy, is nice, in my opinion, for Kira Technology, for all Europe, because all Europe can build up this kind of communities.
Thank you, Fabio, for your point of view. And I am curious also about the industrial point of view. And Andrea, what about the Italian situation? We are ready about that, or we are not yet ready? What is your opinion?
Well, large industries are forced to find an alternative to the fossil fuels they are using now. So that it's pushing quite quickly companies to investigate alternatives and to investigate them at real scale. And this is a good news. At the same time, there is a great uncertainty about the next 3 years, how the carbon market will be evolving due to the CBAM that entered in force last year in January, and it is now approaching the 3 years experimental phase. In these 3 years, the CBAM should give companies an idea about how they could be competitive in comparison with the non-European competitors, which are now quite relevant, both in the steel and iron sector, but also in the chemical industry. However, at Record, where I work, we are now, we have quite many open contracts with concrete producers, chemical products producers, so large chemical industries, and steel industries. We have projects ongoing with Feralpi, with ArcelorMittal, with many others, testing biochar or biocoal as an alternative carbon source. The economy is driving, and the economy is worrying. So they want competitive materials, and they don't want to lose any money compared to what is their consumption now. So you have to imagine, I mean, an industrial site consuming like 10,000 tons of coal per year, now receiving samples from everywhere in the world of char from different producers and testing. They are clogged about the number of tests they are doing. In any process, from the sintering process to the blast furnaces to the electric arc furnaces. So we are in a good period. We are, the present is good, but we have to, how to say, to win the bet that we did some years ago, saying that we can replace with a competitive solution, and we are almost there. So we have to preserve the quality, to avoid mistakes about saying things which are not true, because we have to be clear about the quality needed and the quality we have to produce, and about the economy that is behind. Not all the business cases are fine, but some of them they are. So let's go for them. And I think that we can have a positive approach.
Thank you, Andrea, for your words. But we are very optimistic, as I am, of course. And just to conclude, I want to ask to conclude this talk with the last question to Filippo. Filippo, can you summarize, in your point of view, that you are expert, of course, in this field from years, the Italian situation? We are ready, we have to work. What is, in your opinion, the good point and the bad point that we have?
With regards to biochar, I assume. Okay. It's a long story. Okay. In terms of biochar, there are three challenges right now. The first is the asymmetry in information, knowledge, or know-how that we have seen across the map. So you have many actors which are, in theory, active in the biochar spectrum, but actually are not, in the sense that they should, but they aren't. I'm talking about the institutional side, like ministry to down to regional or county, etc., where the awareness of biochar is near zero, with the exception, of course. The second element is the regulatory framework in which you have to operate legally, which is also updating. So it takes time. So by the time you have a EU directive, and the time you have an actual ruling in a country, it takes about 4 years on average, when you're lucky. The third element is the economic factor intended as such. The incentive, as we just mentioned in the example the previous speaker said, so you have to have an incentive schemes to use new technology and abandon, so to say, the old ways. And this takes also time, because it's a matter of not only of money, but of capacity, industrial capacity, know-how, people that knows how to use biochar in the farm, for example, or in a factory when you make steel or cement. This also brings another side, which is the same another side of the same coin, which is the certification goes along with this work. We mentioned Carbon Standard and other, which are working on the certification, because otherwise you are not able to prove that you're doing what you're doing or what you want to do. So I think again, and I'm sorry I'm complicating the probably the picture, but it is a complicated picture. It's and you need to monitor and manage several aspects at once. So you need to build, and this is my final point, partnerships across different sector, across different segment of the same industry, which generally don't speak to one another. And I can bring a couple of examples which, let's say I'm a producer of biochar. I have to know that once I put the biochar in a bag and I put it outside of my organization, I need to have a piece of paper that I show to the fiscal police in Italy. Because you could be stopped and asked, what is this? And if you don't have the proper paper trail, this can be sized. So you have to know these things in advance. You cannot improvise. Just to give you an example. Secondly, you want to use the biochar or either in the steel industry or in the cement. That cement will have to follow a specific certification in order to be used in construction, up to 2-story, 3-story, what is the hardness that can sustain. So that's what I'm saying. Finally, to give you another example, if you use it in the farm, every farm in Italy now has a record, so a log of what you do. All the products you used must be logged. And now this is no longer on paper as it was until last year. From this year onwards, it's going to be only electronic. So it means you have to be able to log into your record of the farm. Each lot of land is measured in that sense. Each lot of land is monitored. We're talking about big data. The region of Emilia-Romagna, where we are also operating, has a massive database with satellite information, with drone information, with specific sampling that also the people from CNR here knows very well because they do themselves. So you have a huge amount of data. Finally, if I may add about the big data issue, the big data issue is an issue which Europe is ignoring at their own perils. Why? Every piece of equipment you have in any farm and also in every factory is now collecting huge amount of data and metadata. Nobody in Europe has a clue where those data are going. We do, because we read the paper, we read the literature. It's going into these software farms, mostly 99.9% in the US, and they are collecting huge amount of data, and we don't know a thing about what is happening to this data, how they're treating and what they're using for. But I'll give you another example. When a tractor is going across a field, it's collecting data on the soil, the hardness of the soil, the amount of nitrate in the soil. And this information are not put to the system. And this is a great opportunity, in my opinion, that across Europe I see, not only in Italy, where we should look at it more thoroughly. Biochar, finally, and let me conclude with that, is a linking point. So it's a trait d'union, as you say in France. It's a thing that connects, is the red dots that you put together and you make a line. And this red line is very important because it brings forward the carbonization attitude you have towards your operations, but also the accounting of said operations. So I think that's the opportunity lies, to bring out value where value is not recognized as of such today. Thank you.
Thank you, Filippo. So to conclude, yes, it's a very complicated picture of the biochar, but there are also a lot of possibility. So I think that also we are, in general, we can be optimistic for the future because the biochar is a new possibility to develop the economy and a lot of opportunity in different fields. And as told always Lucia Brusegan, the chairwoman of EB, the biochar is a system, is not only a product. So keep in mind this point. So we have a lot of opportunity. It's complex, the picture, but I am optimistic, and so we can do something very, very interesting for the future. And so we conclude, and thank you to be here. Thank you.